Good morning, St. John's community, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Ahead with your head of school, Lorraine Lago. And today I have the pleasure of having a very important guest in our show, our Dean of Academics, Mr. John LaRue. Welcome, John.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I should say before we start that this live stream is possible virtually today. Not only because of the launch of our radio station almost a couple of years ago, but because of the forward thinking and the planning and the flexibility of our board to allow us to buy software and equipment that has enhanced the way we can do productions. So we are at different locations, but feel very close. So I hope that you enjoyed today's show. We're going to be talking about St. John's through the pandemic very quickly, but then after the pandemic and how we have become a sort of a different, better, stronger school because of it. I think it's important that we start with some context, John, because when almost a year ago, the pandemic began and we had to transition to virtual learning very quickly, we as a school were able to do it quickly and seamlessly. There was an article published in Forbes actually about that transition and the qualities of our school, of our community, and of our internal teams that allowed us to make that shift so quickly. So will you talk a little bit about what was in place before the pandemic that enabled us to move swiftly?
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things that allowed us to move so quickly right after the pandemic hit and we went to virtual learning was that we were just all aligned around this common vision about what would our school vision look like. St. John's School's dynamic learning environment fosters the discovery of individual talents and develops students with integrity and compassion who will shape a changing world. What does that look like at distance? And so very quickly, we rallied around these two concepts of community and access. So something that makes St. John's is that our teachers know every student by name and need. They're very personal learning environments, and that really is one of our large strengths. We also have the most rigorous academic program on the island. So how do we make sure also that we're able to provide students and families access to that program while we're not in the brick and mortar school? And so we were really well prepared after Hurricane Maria due to the teams we had already set in place, but also just due to the fact that really St. John's has teams in place that are assembled to tackle almost any problem a school could face. I gotta call out our technology team who immediately upon learning that we had 3 days to prepare, which then turned into, I think, 12 hours, something like that. They were ready with the inventory, with the stress testing of our network, with the programs that our teachers would need to be successful. And then we're also prepared to deliver teacher-facing PD to get everyone up to speed. That's just one team. We had our academic team, which is myself, the principals, the department chairs, the teacher leads in elementary, and the team leads in the early childhood, who were also aligned and ready to lead those teams and thinking about what does access look like in my particular content and my particular grade. And also, after all of this professional development I just received from the technology department on how to deliver my content virtually now. Those teams were crucial. Also, we have two top psychologists in our school, Saida Gonzalez and Nelly Mar Reyes. They are crucial to all of these committees. And the through line really to this is how do we still, yes, deliver this really, really rigorous academic program while keeping in tune with our students' mental health? So those are just three teams. Oh, sorry, I also have to call out, we also have the faculty and curriculum committee, which is made up of our administrators and also parents from the community who take an interest in supporting our academic vision and guiding the decisions we make. So really we have these teams that in alone, they work very well in their areas, but also we communicate with each other to make decisions that are best for the program and best for our students.
And And let me ask you, I think those two things, the relationships and the culture around how we work together were crucial in helping us move quickly, because we communicated well. I also want to point out that as the program began and then continued, we were aware that this was something new and that we were not going to immediately be doing it perfectly. So we did set up some mechanisms for us to be able to improve and continue improving as the program moved along. Can you talk a little bit about what we did in that area?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we knew we had to do right away was get people's feedback as quickly as possible on how the program was working, and then also respond to it. So in terms of our academic program, I think it goes without saying that it's never been more transparent to families, and this is great. I mean, every day our teachers are in your kitchens, your living rooms, wherever your students have their lesson, and so as a parent, as a family member, everyone is hearing that lesson. Everyone is getting that phonics instruction, that world history lesson. And we get feedback on the tone of instruction, the way our teachers assess our students. The students are very upfront about things that are working for them and not. So at the beginning, we knew we had to, support the community in hearing their voices. And so we would send out a survey. At first, it was a weekly survey that would get parents' feedback on what grade they were in, how they were accessing the programs, if they were having any technological issues. We supported several families with just general technical troubleshooting, providing hotspots and hardware support to make sure students were able to get online and get to those lessons. And then the division principals, along with the chairs and those teams I was talking about earlier, would look at the surveys and respond to the feedback as quickly as possible. So a couple things that we moved on very fast. We were very intentional about the scheduling and the timelines and how that was working in relation to not just the academic programs, but also students' mental health. So in our early childhood, we ended up increasing the number of contact hours, the number of in-person lessons. In our high school, in the secondary department, we were able to give that Wednesday off so that parents and students were able to access the content and those clubs. And in our upper elementary, really that program received the most stable feedback, and we were able just to make minor tweaks about how students were able to access the content.
That's great. And then as we sort of focused on technology and access first and making that work, but then we that became stable and good, and then we started looking at how we were teaching. And so, can you talk a little bit about the instructional lessons we learned, the lessons on pedagogy and methodology through this experience?
Sure. I think in terms of instruction and pedagogy, a lot of the lessons we learned from teaching in person stood. We just had to learn how to do it. So, for example, we know students love small group work. They love extended time with each other. They love class discussions. And so we had to figure out, how do we adjust our platforms and how do we adjust the instruction to make sure teachers could do it. With Google Meet, it doesn't have a built-in breakout room function. So teachers worked very well together along with the technology team, who would provide really quick hit mini PD sessions on some of these technical topics and support the teachers in learning how to do that. Other things that we learned is that there's a lot of really great tools out there, but a tool isn't necessarily the answer. And so our department chairs and grade level teams did a great job of going out and finding the resources that would work best for their content area and providing a real authentic experience with the content. So we landed on a couple things that I think are really interesting. In early childhood, we landed with Seesaw, which you could kind of think of it as like the wholesome Instagram. It's a place where students can post pictures of classwork, they can post videos of their work. The teacher then reviews all of the posts and can give real-time feedback to that student. It's really cute. If you go in on some of them, teachers will leave audio messages, telling the students jokes and in response to the classwork that they put up. So that worked really well. And
I'll interrupt you for a minute, but the importance of real time feedback is immense. So that was something we had identified, and then groups of teachers, by doing the research and seeing what educational organizations were recommending and what technology was out there, found that solution. As you know, feedback after a certain time is not as effective. So that's really important. I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
gotta say, we're very fortunate in that we were able to provide a fully synchronous distance learning environment. And a lot of that goes to just how quickly, we were able to mobilize the professional development and the resources. So shortly after our first stint in distance learning at the end of the school year, the board approved the purchase of a new laptop for every single teacher. And that honestly that was a game changer in terms of giving people the tools they need to do a really good job. They all have a touch screen, they have a stylus, they have multiple cameras, and so the teacher is able to simulate that whiteboard space and write on the screen as if they were there with the student. Another platform that we found is really helpful is ClassKick, and this is sort of like it's sort of like Seesaw, but for older kids. So teachers are able to post assignments online and see everybody's work live and give feedback, and that's been important. You hear me say it multiple times: feedback, feedback, feedback. It's really easy for assignments, especially in the digital space, to sort of get lost in the churn, and so something our teachers have been really intentional about is that if students do the work, they're honoring it, and they're able to zero in on exactly where that student is at that particular lesson.
Yeah, and the work really does not become meaningful until the student receives the feedback, and the teacher sees where those gaps in learning may be, and where he or she has to move going forward, so that it's the learning continues to be authentic. Um, so in terms of all these lessons that we've learned, now we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Yesterday we completed a vaccination for 190 of our staff members, which includes the faculty and other people that are not in the classroom but are essential to the operations of the school. And so it looks like if the government allows, we're ready. We're ready to open. So what kind of school? What changes will we see in the way students learn, teachers teach, and humans interact in this new environment after the pandemic?
Uh, well, I think how humans interact with each other after this is going to be each individual person's journey, but we will work through that together. I think you're going to see some different changes in the classroom. I think a lot of what we're learning is going to stay. On a lighter note, I think you're going to see a lot less paper. People have found that there is a little bit of a techie person in each of them. Teachers who previously didn't like, working with technology or having some assignments submitted online are sort of seeing this new way of the new teaching and the new tools that are available to them. And people are really liking it. They're liking that the planning is faster, the delivery of content often is smoother, and the ability for students to work collaboratively with each other is really enhanced with the way a lot of these tools have gone. So really, hybrid teaching, we've been working on this since summer, right? We thought there was a chance we would be starting this school year and being able to have our blended classrooms in a modified schedule. So we are ready whenever it's time to do that. First things first, we had to pressure test our network. So the tech team is still in the process, of making sure that whenever we do have kids here and kids at home, streaming lessons, logging in, that our network is able to take it. So we've made some significant upgrades there. And so we are ready from a structural perspective. We've also
and what that means for the non-techie people like myself is that
the
you don't
pipe is
want
big enough. for the
Exactly the highway has enough lanes so that we avoid traffic jams, and we have everybody stay online, and those who are not here will be able to receive the lesson without interruption at home. Can you talk a little bit more about that, John? Because I think a question on everybody's mind, including mine, before I knew how this was going to work, and particularly if you've been a teacher, is how is this hybrid model possible? I mean, I know that there's some skeptics out there who will say, well, there's no way kids at home will continue to receive the same quality of instruction and the same experience once the teachers have students within the classroom. So can you expand a little bit on that hybrid model, and what support teachers have gotten, and how that is really going to work?
Sure, sure. A lot of the professional development that we've given. So I'll start first with teachers. From a teacher level, a lot of the trainings that we've done have been around clear communication of expectations and of the use of tools. So all of our teachers make sure that for every single lesson, they just have a very simple landing page that's full of the class needs for the day, whether it's technology materials, objectives, or learning assignments, right? So that kids know exactly what they're supposed to do. So if you could think about it, a teacher would be in their classroom. They would be projecting that onto the smartboard for the students who are in that class, while simultaneously sharing that screen from their laptop into a Google Meet. So the student would actually be seeing exactly what the teacher is posting on their board. And so this all kind of falls together. Let's say the teacher goes to the next page and they're modeling a math problem for the class. This teacher would use the stylus on the laptop to then solve that problem on the screen, which is showing to the students in seated in the class, and while streaming to the students at home on Google Meet, so they're able to see it. If they have a question, the teacher, those students at home can always click a button, raise their hand. The teacher is able to then monitor the students who are in seat, but also monitor the students who are at home. And I think it's really important to note too that our teachers are doing a lot of small group work here with the breakout rooms, and so this isn't going to be new for a group to have to wait a couple minutes for the teacher to rotate through their group. It's really something from distance learning we got to acknowledge too, is that this model is better for some people. Some students are really liking being at home and accessing the content from the comfort of their own home, but also on that individual basis. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see some people opt in just for safety reasons at first, but also because it's their preferred learning style, that's what St. John's is about.
Exactly. I agree that this will allow for our focus on differentiation to happen more seamlessly too, because we have the structure and the tools to be able to do that. John, to sort of all wrap it all together as we end this broadcast. What would you say a classroom would look like once we get back to live instruction here at St. John's?
Well, I can already say that the pre-K students who are back, they're adorable. They have the plastic dividers on the tables. They have their masks. They're following instructions.
They even have hula hoops, so they sit inside the hula hoop and know that that's their space, right? So that to keep the social distancing. Yes.
I mean, I have to say, I think people are going to be happy. People can't wait to see each other. They can't wait to see their kids. I'm here at the school right now. It's not the same. It's great. It's great seeing, the people who are here. But, St. John's is St. John's because when it's a buzz with students doing learning. And so from a technical perspective, I think if you see a classroom, you'll see kids sitting the appropriate distance apart, so it's safe, wearing masks. You're going to see some really neat ways for teachers to gauge student learning through technology, and also to engage resources that they previously wouldn't have thought about that are virtual. That's something else too, is there's a lot of things that are available to us now because they've gone virtual. Price points are down, access is up. And so I think now we're at a really prime time to take a look at our academic programs and see how we can enhance them virtually.
Yes, and to add to that, John, I think that we've been talking a lot as educators, not just in St. John's, but within the larger education community, about how technology and how life has changed, how the world that our students will encounter once they leave high school will be completely different. But really, sometimes old habits are hard to break. So what we know seems safe and seems right, and so, seeing paper and pencil and having tests that are mostly memorization and, having to do things a certain way has changed, right? So now we see how much deeper thinking can be and how much more enriching learning can be and the experiences that we can provide for kids, and how we can really, if we want to prepare students for a different world than we encountered when we or my generation was in school, then we really have to break away from those traditional ways of thinking about school. And that's, I think that's been one of the gifts, of the many gifts. There have been many gifts of the pandemic, but one of them has been that we have been forced to do things differently, and we have witnessed how uh, much more uh, deep and productive the teaching and learning experience can be when we use the resources available to us, and when we let kids tell us how they learn best, and we work with them as a team. So thank you for being here, John, today. I know I'm taking you away from the teachers who, by the way, are continuing to do an amazing job. So shout out to our faculty and to our faculty leads, those department chairs and our principals. So I'll let you go, but thank you for helping me tell the story of how we got here and how St. John's is going to be even better and even stronger once we're back from this experience.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And as you said, I'm always happy to get on here and brag about the really good work that our teachers are doing, rising to the occasion. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We will make this live stream available also in a little bit. So tell your friends and tell those who weren't able to listen to join us in our recorded format and know a little bit about what great things are happening in our community and in our school. Thanks again, and see you next time.